traditional territory. We live, play, and work here together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. A reminder to all in attendance that our council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the township website to review. Item number 2, confirmation of the agenda.
I'll need a mover and seconder, please, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Diamond.
Can I read the motion?
Please, Madam Clerk.
It was moved by Councillor Drewer and seconded by Councillor Diamond that the agenda for the regular council meeting of January 10th, 2023 be approved as printed.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns? If not, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. More pens, more paper. He doesn't want to come and see it. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. Item number 4A, minutes of a special council meeting held December 12th, 2022. Sorry. Item 4 is the adoption of the minutes. 4A is the minutes of a special council meeting held December 12th, 2022.
No, so actually, I'll just take a move and a seconder, Mr. Mayor, and I can read out the motion.
Moved by Councillor Gattery, seconded by Councillor Rondo. Didn't mess it up too bad.
I'll read the motion.
Please, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Gattery and seconded by Councillor Rondo that the following minutes are hereby adopted. Minutes of a special council meeting held December 12th, 2022. Minutes of a regular council meeting held December 13th, 2022. Minutes acknowledged are the minutes of the Emergency Management Program Committee meeting held December 20th, 2022.
Any errors, omissions, or questions or concerns regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Item number 5, the consent agenda.
So I'll need a mover and a seconder, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Gattery.
Can I read the motion?
Please, Madam Clerk.
It was moved by Councillor Drewer and seconded by Councillor Gattery. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the January 10th, 2023 council agenda be received as the motions contained therein be approved and reported as listed below.
Questions or concerns? If none, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Item number 6, delegation. Seeing none, we move on to number 7, new business. 7A.
Yeah, there's a motion, so I'll need
There's a
a
motion on the
Yes.
floor. Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Neal.
I'll read the motion.
Please, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Drewer and seconded by Councillor Neal that council acknowledges the receipt of report EA-OT-2023-002 as information. And that council approve and implement the food cycler program for $5,000 in the 2023 budget.
Any discussion on the matter? Questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Item 7B. Regarding the museum boiler heating report. We must have another motion.
Yes.
Moved by Councillor Drewer again, seconded by Councillor Gattery.
So just to remind you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor DeMarchi is on the screen as
Oh,
well.
sorry, I keep forgetting about and the neat part is Councillor DeMarco, you're quiet, so I can't hear you.
I'm sitting in the weeds.
I'll start paying attention to you on the right-hand side. I don't have many excuses on the right-hand side.
I did have an addition to the agenda, but I think I missed the vote.
Yep, we'll move on with that. We'll put her on the next one, Councillor DeMarchi.
Okay.
Has everybody read the report on item 7B? And, oh, you gotta read sorry, Madam Clerk, could you please read the motion?
Okay, it was moved by Councillor Drewer and seconded by Councillor Gattery that council proceed to hire Grants Heating Plus to carry out the original repairs, plus the additional work as outlined in report EA-OT-2023-001 for $12,926.07.
Is there any questions or concern regarding this motion? No questions or, yes, Councilor.
Just a question. I just was looking at the options that were given and the problems that were in place. And I, again, being made with this is the first kind of time that when I was looking at the notes earlier today, first time that I've noticed this. When I look at for the option of having the company, I believe that's from out of town doing it at the cost of $12,000. Was that the best price, like for the options were given? I know that here it shows that there's another company that was for 10, but maybe not the same amount of work was going to be accomplished in it. But
Yes, Madam. I think that most of the information was in the report, but I'm sure, Madam Clerk, you can speak to this even better.
Well, actually, the report was done by the executive assistant and the CAO, so I prefer if the questions went through them.
Okay. Anji, can you explain to the council, please?
Yeah, so the original quote and the work done was done by Heating Cooling Plus, which is local.
yes,
His work would have been matched by Grant's Heating. The reason why Grant came up with a higher quote was he believed that there were additional repairs needed, which were outlined in the report to
yes.
bring the building up to code. So that was why there was the additional quote.
Okay, so one was 10,000, the other one was 12,000.
But it was two different levels of work.
Okay, all right. That's fine. I just
Council.
wanted just to see what this.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks,
thank
Anji.
you.
Councilor DeMarchi?
Through your worship, I'm just wondering about this furnace repair or boiler repair. Was the first company that installed the shark bite and whatever else was wrong, were they reapproached to repair what wasn't up to code?
Anji, can you speak to that?
I could not ascertain who did the original repairs due to how long the work was done. So Grant
Oh,
came
okay,
in,
so,
there was an emergency. And he came in, he
Okay.
inspected it, and right away he caught that and believed that the community brought the code.
okay, thank you.
And Anji and CAO, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe both contractors were involved in or requested to give quotes on the work needed to be done, and only the one actually quoted on all the proper work. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I can just have
Yes,
got a
Councilor.
question, just so this amount that is being up for approval will be counted as part of the budget for 2023 as well.
So yes, Councillor Neil, if council approves this tonight, it'll automatically be reflected in the 2023 budget.
And then it will be up to council as to where that money will come from, whether it'll be from operating or if it will come from a reserve. Or, am I correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
We'll have that choice, but and you've already read the motion.
Yes, I did.
Mhm.
It's so long, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Any other questions or concerns regarding the motion? If none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Item 7C is a report on Recreation Ad Hoc Advisory Committee.
I'll need a mover and seconder.
A mover and a seconder. We've got Counselor Neil moving, seconded by Counselor Drewer.
I'll read the motion.
Please, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Neil and seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council approve the drafted terms of reference for the Recreation Ad Hoc Committee as presented with report CTC 2022-01. That should be 2023-01. To direct staff to bring back the approved terms of reference in the form of a bylaw.
Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Item 7D is regarding appointing a temporary interview panel, worker bee physician recruiter. We need a motion, mover and a seconder once again, moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Drewer. Sorry, I didn't look over to see Councillor DeMarque again. I keep ignoring him. Sorry, Councillor DeMarque.
No problem.
I'll read the
Yeah,
motion.
please read the motion, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council mirror the Worker Bees Advisory Committee Resolution number 2022-76, which reflects that the following Worker Bee Advisory Committee members are hereby appointed to the Ad Hoc Interview Committee for the purposes of interviewing, selecting, and recommending to council a physician recruiter. Renee LaChapelle, Oswald Silverson, Gilles Forget. And that following the successful hire of the physician recruiter, the ad hoc interview committee be dissolved.
Is there other questions or concerns from council? I have one question, Madam Clerk, or possibly CAO, regarding this is this to replace somebody that's actually on a maternity leave at the moment, correct?
You should direct your questions to the CAO, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor.
okay,
No. So there was an individual that was hired by the worker bees or by the township to work with the worker bees for a period of 1 year under an NHFC internship. Well, after working several months, left and moved to Ottawa, although she is a local, was born locally. She continued to work at a part-time basis with the Worker Bees Committee from Ottawa, and then my understanding is now she's taken some time on a maternity leave. When she left, the committee then requested that we apply for another internship, which we did. And in fact, so we got the first part of the first internship funded, and now we're going to get another 12 months, which is good. It was approved. We advertised and a couple of times got no responses at all. And then on the last one, actually Renee LaChapelle helped me with some websites that organizations that she deals with. And then we ended up getting actually quite a few applications. Those applications were given to the Worker Bee Committee. And of course, with the election and everything, things slowed down. So now here they are wanting to appoint the interview committee to interview those people.
so we're not, just to follow up on my initial question. This will not put the township into a situation where it's paying out of pocket. This is coming out of the grant.
Yeah, well, 90% of it is. The rest of the money is coming from the monies that were allocated by
The three communities?
the three communities and a small number of donations as well. So yeah, the budget should not be affected by this at all.
Well, that covers my questions. Any other questions from council? If I see none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Seven E is another report. It's regarding request to reschedule our January 24th, 2023 regular council meeting. Yeah, we need a mover and a seconder once again. Got moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Rondo. Sorry, Gabby. I don't know, I'm gonna get you ladies sorted out before this term's over, hopefully. Madam Clerk, could you read the motion, please?
Moved by Councillor Neil and seconded by Councillor Gaddery, that council cancel the January 24th, 2023 regular council meeting and reschedule the meeting to January 25th, 2023 in order for the mayor and CAO to be present following the Roma conference.
Any questions or concerns? Yes, Councilor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if we could reconsider to the 26th, as I have a Bingham Hospital meeting on the 25th.
I see, we need the mover and seconder to concur. Sorry.
Once the motion hits the table, it's actually all of council's motion, so it's a small little change. As long as you receive a majority of head nods from council, we can just change the date.
I see the majority of, I see the majority of councils in favor of allowing that change. So if we could please entertain that change, thank you.
Would you like me to read the
Please,
motion?
just so that we're in, yeah, please.
All right, so it was moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Gaddery, that council cancel the January 24th, 2023 regular council meeting and reschedule the 26th, 2023 in order for the mayor and CAO to be present following the Roma conference.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried.
It's gotta be on the screen.
It's not part of the report.
You send it separately.
Item 7F. It's a memo regarding a notice of motion reallocation of surplus deficit for 2022 audit. We must have another motion here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
A
sorry.
motion and a seconder, please. Sorry, did I miss something? Oh, no, this is the-
Yeah, this one?
Yeah.
It's not it's the actual motion.
Moved by Councillor Gaddery, seconded by Councillor Drewer. Sorry, Councillor DeMarkey. I actually paid attention for a second. Sorry, Councillor DeMarkey.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, who is it moved by?
Councillor Gaddery.
I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Gaddery and seconded by Councillor DeMarkey. That council authorize any surplus from the 2022 audit to be allocated to the tax stabilization reserve as per the municipal reserve and reserve funds policy CP-1700-01. And that council authorize any deficit from the 2022 audit to be removed from the working capital fund as per the reserve and reserve funds policy CP-1700-01.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yes, go ahead.
If I could just provide some information to
I was
council.
hoping you would. Thank you.
So the 2022 audit has just begun. So as we stand, we don't know whether we're deficit because the bank reconciliations are not complete and we have year-end adjustments yet to be made. Just for your information, it was reflected in the pre-budget report. Council did pass the budget with anticipating a deficit of 130,000. Council should not be surprised if we do come back to you and advise you that you are in a deficit. So how it's going to work is if it was a surplus, you set it aside in one of your reserves for future use. So let's say there's 1 year where there's a tax levy spike, but potentially it's just a one-off. You may want to use those reserves to offset that spike. In this particular case, you're probably going to see a deficit. So that's actually taking out of your working capital reserve. But a presentation will be made to council by the auditors when the audit is complete. But prior to that, staff will provide council with an unaudited amount of what the 2022 results are.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That was good. I was hoping you would actually try to inform everybody of the exact deal that has to happen here. Anyway, if there's is there any other questions regarding this? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? And I see no objections, carried. Item 8, reports. 8A, Municipal Office Conceptual Design Report from our CAO. Maybe,
Yep. Should probably read those.
oh, we're gonna have a motion. Got a motion again?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor DeMarque, moved by Councillor DeMarque, seconded by Councillor Drewer. Need the motion, please, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor DeMarque, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council received report CAO 2023-02 as information. And that council proceed with option 3 as indicated in report CAO 2023-02, which is to accept the concept design as presented and proceed ahead with necessary costing.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
I just wanted to point out, there was an error with the agenda.
It's listening.
I forgot to attach the conceptual design, so Kanji's emailing it to you.
I'm also gonna go up here so we can discuss.
Yeah, just put it up on, just for sure. If you put it up on the screen, that should be good. So maybe I could just give
Well,
council.
Councillor DeMarque, the other day.
I just emailed them.
Email.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, yes.
So just by way of a bit of background, so in 2019, council purchased the building that we're in now for a cost of $722,000. There was some geotechnical work that was done there. So the site's okay. The building is not without its issues. There's some building code issues that we had to correct. Also, the upstairs area is subject to minimal use because of the weight restrictions. And then the other thing is there's one washroom, of course, and we're already out of space, which we knew was going to happen when we moved there. And the last council understood that too, that we'd have to do some expansion. So in so doing that, when we moved in, or just prior to moving in, we found out that there was a problem with the sewer. And so that it got frozen actually from the building going out to the main sewer line. Council approved the funds and we had that corrected, so we're okay from that perspective. So following through, we engaged JL Richards to come and do a look at our building and take some notes back from us and design an expansion, which is the diagram that you're seeing here now. And so essentially, Hanji, can you just flip down to the picture, please, at the end? Essentially, this is what it would look like. Now, this is an artist's conception, so we wouldn't have all these people floating around. We hopefully will have that nice wonderful grass, but that's sort of what it looks like. Okay, so if you, what they did is they took the current building and they mirrored it on the other side. So that it took, if you can see the roof, how it slopes one way towards Highway 11, and then the new one slopes the other way. So it's sort of symmetrical, but turned backwards, right? Okay, go back up to the top there, Hanji.
Very top, right?
Yeah, that's fine. So what you're looking at right here is the main floor. And so about equidistant between the diagram there is the area where we currently are. And so maybe I'll just get out.
Yeah, you might as well point out, those are gonna start out.
And so, for example, just to orient you, this is my office right now, Cassandra. This is Sonia's office. We've got the hallway here. Here's the stairs and go to the upstairs. And the doorway would be roughly about here. And so they've reconfigured some walls so that we can fit more staff in there. We've put a mechanical room here, and we have a space here for a vault, which we don't know what we're going to do with the old vault yet. Maybe we'll use it again. We'll have to wait and see. And some janitorial closets. So that's what's going to happen to the present space. The new space is going to contain 3 additional washrooms. We're required to have 4 washrooms by code. And so that is, those are going to be installed. There is some general meeting rooms. So if, for example, the mayor or a council member wants to meet with a resident, they have that space for them there to come and use. That's one thing we really didn't have in the other building. And it makes things good because that means you don't have to meet them up the street or the restaurant or whatever happened. The entranceway is going to be 2 doorways protecting from the wind and whatnot. And There'll be some comfortable seating here for residents when they come in to be served by the front counter people, which are here. And this means that people will not be able to access this area without going through a locked doorway. There is also a kitchen area here that we've designed as well for the staff. And a couple of, can't read that, what's there, but that's a storage room, I think. No, it probably won't focus.
From here, it looks like electrical.
It could be the electrical room, yes.
So the current entrance is gonna be canceled out?
Yeah, they'll be gone and people will enter over here. And I'll show you the picture, but well, you can see, bring the picture back up. This area here is gonna use some of the space that we have behind the current building, so that's kind of good that we've been able to use that. Now, the council chambers. So you can see how the council chambers is behind here. We're gonna have like the wall will be like our logo. And this right here is meant to be a projection unit. So they have projection units, you put them up on the wall and they shine down, believe it or not, but they clean the screen. We don't know where we're exactly gonna put that yet, but we wanted to represent it. Area for people that are speaking to council, for people to sit, and then over here is a little area for you know, if we go out and coffee or something like that. And there's a clothes closet here too. That was the other one that we wanted to make sure that people have a place to hang out their coats. So Hanji, just get a little to the top here. Make sure yeah, so this is the upstairs, which really they haven't finished looking at it, but I figure it's not going to be used for much. We might be able to use it for some storage, but probably not large file cases because they're just so heavy. The weakness is where the right here. And if you go up, if you remember when you were upstairs, you were locked, you can probably feel the bow a bit, and that's what they're really worried about. Okay, go to that other rendition.
There's nothing they can use really.
I was gonna say, can't they add supports for that?
They could, pretty expensive. Not only that, but this, if you remember when you were up there,
Mhm.
unless you're 5'4", you're gonna hit your
Yeah.
head on the ceiling. So, except for the very centerpiece, right? I know, we had all these discussions with JL Richards, because I really wanted to use that upstairs. And if we're only gonna be using it for, you know, some soft storage and perhaps, you know, small meetings or something for the staff, then that's fine. Okay. All right, so this is sort of the outside look. So you've got parking spaces here. We're planning for an electrical hookup for EVs. And this will all be asphalted anyway. And we've got a couple of light poles here as well to give some light. And then the entranceway is going to be here. There's a couple of parking for those that have disabilities. And we have a little walking path here that comes out so you can walk across. Now, we haven't exactly determined this yet. What we're sort of thinking is that people would walk out here, they could come across a little crosswalk here on the sidewalk and make their way down to 11 and come across 11 at the pre-existing crosswalk. And of course, all that fits into, you know, hopefully our vision for Highway 11 as we make Matheson a little bit more welcoming that way. Right here, we're gonna have an electronic sign. Let's say Township of Black River Matheson or some renamed name or something. You know, come pay your tax bills today or whatever. It'll be interchangeable messages.
Chris's Palace.
Sorry?
Chris's Palace.
Yeah, no, it does. And so right here, this is where we thought we might put a roadside attraction. So think Max the Moose and Dryden, think the Wawa Goose, think the Three Bears and Hornbeam, that type of thing. We just don't know what that thing should be. I
Maybe
thought
there should be a contest open for that.
and we talked about this.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I thought about was Basil McDougall. So I have this whole story that one of the staff members gave to me. It's written by a school teacher 50 years ago. It was quite interesting reading it, but you know, I don't know enough about him and enough about the town to suggest that that would be the right thing, but certainly something would be cool to build there.
And it should be.
It should be a
included for all
contest. I think there's a lot of local people that have been here for years. They've probably come up with something pretty good and pretty unique.
Absolutely. And, you know, this will give, a reason for people to stop too, and get their picture taken. Right here, we're gonna have three flagpoles. And, they're gonna be quite large, quite high, 60 feet. And on top of one of them is gonna be a Husky Canada flag. That big. So people can see where we are. Because I'll just tell you a little story. When I was in Wawa, people would always say, they drive by the Wawa Goose and they don't see it until they're gone farther north. You don't. If you drive by it, you can't, you have to turn around and look, right? So if you're driving, don't do that. So I said, well, that's pretty easy. Let's put up a big flagpole with a big flag. And so we did. So people coming from the south can actually see that flag. So they knew that the goose is there, so they stopped. So that's important as well. So our council flag for what this stuff as well. So and then we've got some lighting is in this area too. And of course, some landscaping, grass, bushes, etc. Some bushes here too. And then we've got an entranceway, current entranceway, but right here, what they put in there is something for our garbage as well. That would be sort of a steel type container. You know, at some point in the future, if we go to trucks that lift the garbage themselves, that would be designed for that as well. And this approximately, this is the envelope that we would be maintaining, which would leave about 2 acres. That way we could use or dispose of if we wanted for some commercial activity. So I think that's all I want to tell you about. Oh, yes. This right here, this is a little enclosure roof top with water and everything for the Mennonites and their horses. Horses there, they could tie them up, have some water there for them, have a little shelter on the top of them as well. I think that's everything I want to go. So really, the purpose of this is, does council have any more ideas they want to put into this, or are you happy with this? And if so, then we'll get the go ahead to Jill Richards to get the costing for us.
So the parking is all on this side.
Right here,
Okay.
right here, and right here.
Yeah.
For now, you can park anywhere.
Yeah, I'd call open.
Or actually.
And Chris, if you don't mind me asking, like where you're showing that parking, that's not going to interfere with that extra room we have there for any commercial development?
Nope.
That'll still give us our 2 acres over there?
Yep.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
What about a little memorial park in there
Memorial Park for who?
for past council and mayors that have passed on, maybe with little plaques, little, like you're having a little seating garden area, why not add that in
Yeah,
there?
why not add something like that
Okay,
for commemorative?
is that something that you want outside or would it be?
I would do it outside
I would do,
Outside?
yeah.
Okay,
with,
In there.
with a nice little park bench or something
Yes.
like
Sure.
for.
yeah, sure, no problem at all.
Like in that one spot where you're planning to put whatever,
Here,
yeah, right down in there.
well, we could always make room for it in front too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
Like maybe a little memorial wall and add the names of everybody who served, who's passed on.
Yeah.
But everybody who served in the community, like on council or mayor. I think it'd be a good add-on.
Yeah, one of the things that, if you go to the last of the other building there, you can see there's a number of scriptures where they have all the council members that passed and whatnot. We don't have all the pictures, right? So I think it's really good to memorialize people like that who've done that. Because remember, once you cross the railway, what you have over here is the cenotaph, right? So, that's not a bad idea. Pastor, you got that?
I wrote it down, yes.
Okay, if we could, Councilor DeMarchi had a question? Go ahead, Councilor DeMarchi.
Yes, your worship, if I can speak. Sorry about the voice. I think there should be some recognition for the reserve as well. Where the
Yes,
park is,
absolutely.
where the park is now, in front of the OPP office, like we have nothing there for the reserve. And I always thought that there should be a TP or something in there to recognize the reserve. Something we might want to look at when we're dressing up the parking lot there.
Yeah, totem,
A
that.
totem pole or TP something,
Yes.
Whatever.
Totem.
or maybe both.
give them an option anyway.
Councilor DeMarco, the one thing about that park is it belongs to the
Rotary Club.
Rotarians, right?
Yes,
Now, I'm just questioning myself if, see this spot here, the spot where we were talking about putting the large sort of object, we can actually expand that as well and include something in there for that.
That would be great.
I think I would want council to talk with them to see what type of thing, a
Mhm.
totem may not be good for them,
Yeah,
but they may have something else in mind.
I can probably go into the information, but I work there, so I can probably
there you
talk
go.
to Chief Black
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
and see what she would probably suggest.
Cause the TP, I don't think they could leave that there year round.
They do.
That's the one thing.
They do.
Do they?
So one of the things I want you to notice too, is if you come here, like there's a ditch here, and there's a ditch out here. Those are all gonna be gone when we finish this and when we get to the highway.
So it's gonna beautify it more along the highway,
Yeah,
along the side street.
yeah, I don't have the design for that yet,
The Rotary Park's right behind that, right?
across the tracks.
Across the tracks. Is
Yeah.
there a way we can build maybe a walk path to go through to the water and then through the road? Well, oh, yeah, well, either way, still have to cross the tracks anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
the
just a sidewalk.
sidewalk is on the other, like it's on this side of the. road,
Oh, okay.
right? So, but I think some signage would work, right? And the other thing too, that's really good about this and about, talking about cleaning up Highway 11 and whatnot, just Senate Ave, all that being over there is the train stations there too, which we know in the next, probably by 2025, the trains are gonna be running. So it's a real good capture, right?
Mhm.
Just a small technical question, Chris. What is their original or initial plan for the design for the heating system? I know it'll be natural gas, but will it be hot water or?
No, it's gonna be what we have now, which is built-in floor. Heating.
Radiant heat?
Now, they did tell me, I think I put it in my report too, they don't have the geotech yet, so there's a possibility that could change. But I just said I want two things. Number one is I want something that's cheaper, and I also want something that's cheaper to run too. But I don't want to put in floor heating and something happens, and I don't know enough about it, where you gotta break the floor out, right? That's one of the issues.
Mhm.
And also, the heating system in the current building right now, you can't go room to room. You put one temperature, applies to everything.
That's
And
what we
we
do,
have
right?
a constant battle in the office because I like it cool and some folks like it hot. Or warmer.
That was a poor design.
It's just the way it was, yeah, just the way it was designed. So we're gonna correct some of those things too, but they're minor issues.
Any other questions regarding this? Counselor Neil?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, again, because we haven't got the 2023 budget and all these numbers are coming in, without really knowing where we're headed. As a community yet,
Good
so,
question.
I think this is awesome as far as how it looks. I like the concept. I think it's nice for the community for sure. I'm always just a little cautious when I look at the expenses that are gonna start being incurred. It was 700,000 was approved last year roughly for the building itself.
No, sorry, Counselor Neil, I should have been perhaps a little bit more inclusive on that. 700 is what they paid for the lot in the present building.
All right,
That's what we already had invested in.
okay.
There was 3.5 million, Cassandra,
Was 2.9.
2.9 million that we were set up, approved to borrow at the time to do that. And that was to build a new office. But then again, they had this opportunity, so they decided to go that way. We still have with Ontario Infrastructure Loan an approved amount over and above the 700. Council still has to approve it. So, but your comment on the budget is right, and I don't know if this thing, like. It's gotta be RFP, council's gotta approve the final design and the amount and all that. I don't know that we get started in 2023. But I asked Richards, I said, that when we've got the final design, you've got the costing, please come and make a presentation to council, and they will. There will also be a detailed report that will come along with that as well. So until council says, let's go ahead, let's do it. It's not a done deal. We're just simply following through the process. The one thing I will tell you to be prepared for is you're gonna borrow money to do this. This is not coming out of reserves or taxes. And
Is there no way of getting grants from
sorry,
federal or provincial governments?
we
to
did,
help?
we got $100,000 for it or not already. But grants for municipal buildings, municipal administration offices they're not there. They don't do it. we were lucky to get the 100,000 and we used that to address some of the shortfalls in the present building, so. At least it's $100,000, right? But you're not gonna get away without borrowing money for this thing, and if I have to. Make a recommendation, and the treasurer and I have talked about this, is that if you're gonna borrow money, do it for bricks and mortar. Because you got a 50-year life at least in a building, so the amortization rate, not that you can borrow, is rather lengthy. So you wouldn't want to be borrowing money for roads or stuff like that, because it just doesn't make any sense, but bricks and mortar makes sense. But all that will be covered in the final report regardless. Really, tonight, we're just looking to make sure that we've got the proper conceptual design. I think we've got some really great ideas here that we can incorporate quite easily.
Any other questions before we call for a vote? I think I'd like to thank you, Chris and Hanji and Cass, for all the work you've done into getting this to this point. And obviously, there's going to be lots of discussion before we're done, but we're at least at a good starting point. And did we already read the motion?
I did, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, I'll call for a vote on this resolution to move forward.
I have a question, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry, Councilor DeMarkey.
Just wondering, what are we voting on? Just the costing, to get the costing?
Exactly, I think, and the motion was just to accept the conceptual design and to allow the CAO to move forward with JL Richards to get costing.
Okay,
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
We should probably put in there with suggested alterations by Tuesday.
Yep, so I need notes. You want me to add it to the motion?
Just say with, so that you don't have to add them all.
So Councilor DeMarkey, we're also going to add in just some of the points that have been mentioned tonight at the table and from all those concerned, that's going to be added to the resolution, that those will be incorporated into the proposed estimates.
okay, thank you.
That work?
Yep.
All those in favor? Carried. And seeing no objections, carried.
No, I'm gonna buy heated boots next time you leave.
And item 8B. It's a report from our CAO regarding our pre-budget 2023 information. Okay, well, said CAO, but I kind of assumed that we were going to get it from the expert. Madam Clerk, Treasurer,
So I need a move and a seconder, Mr. Mayor.
moved by Councillor Gadry, seconded by Councillor Jor,
I'll read the motion.
please.
Moved by Councillor Gadry, seconded by Councillor Drewer. That council received report CTT 2023-02 as information.
Any questions or concern regarding the report? I'm sure everybody's had a chance to review it. Yes, Councillor Nick.
Again, when I look at the list of substantial things that are coming up, this is a contract year as well. And so again, that's one of my concern when I look at finances where we are. If we're in a deficit last year, it
Guess
was a
what?
non-contract year. And again, for those that are the workers that are, with the cost of inflation, hopefully you can do something, but I'm just. When I look at that list, that's why, again, I'm not sure when exactly the budget meetings are going to be starting. But I'm looking forward to see the numbers, because I'm definitely like numbers. To see where we are and see what we do.
And go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So to address your comment with regards to when are we going to start having some fun at budget and crunching numbers?
Yeah.
So following this meeting, the purpose of this report was really just to give council a bit of history. And so you kind of start getting the wheels turning and to know what to anticipate when the next report comes. So the next report that's going to be presented to council, I'm anticipating the 1st of February. In that report will be everything that covers a base operational budget. So I'm going to ask council within that report. The 15.2% levy increase that's reflected in this report will be carried over in the following report. And in there, I'll also add your OMPF decrease, your increase in your insurance premiums, increase in inflation, and that'll cover your base operational budget, which will then provide council with what your levy increase just with your base operational budget. From there, we'll go through it. You'll ask questions and you'll see what you're comfortable with. Then following that, if there's any additions you want to make, that's where we'll start then going through what those additions are, how it affects your levy. and then how it affects the taxpayers. So your month of February will be dedicated to budget, probably your month of March as well. Hopefully we'll have it adopted by April.
Yes, Councilor.
I appreciate the pie chart. I like that. Percentages, I like that breakdown percentages, so say thank you for that.
And the only other comment I'd just like to add is the clerk mentioned our OMPF reduction, which has been going on for several years. And that OMPF is, of course, the unconditional grants that the province gives us. And actually, at Roma, when the CAO and I are going down to Roma, we're actually planning some meetings with some of the ministers, and hopefully, I mean, there's no guarantees, but I'm hoping we can convince them to not only stop the reductions, but possibly reverse some of them to help our situation up, because what's the number? I believe we've lost in the last 5 years over $315,000,
Yes, it was something like that.
roughly $315,000, which a community our size, $315,000 of reductions in grant money, like for operational costs, is a lot of money.
8% of your levy.
It's 8% of our levy, so
Yeah.
if we could even if we can't get it all corrected, if we can get some of it corrected. It may help our budget deliberations out a little bit, not gonna be perfect by any means, and we're gonna have a tough job. Yes. Chris.
Just for council's information as well, for the January 26th meeting, you'll also have a report that I finished today. And it really goes outside the realm of our borders, and it talks about other issues on that are going to affect the budget. So for example, the current geopolitical situation will affect the budget, already has. It affects the supply chains. Inflation now at year over year at November 2022 is 6.8%. So what does that drive? Well, that drives everything, right? The price of fuel, it's going to drive our negotiations with CUPE, and it's going to drive all of that. Then you've got supply chain problems that are caused by a combination of things, COVID, geopolitical problems, and inflation. And so, if, for example, we were looking at, because we had that truck destroyed in the accident, replacing that, Cassandra, with 2025?
Yeah.
2025 to get a new truck. And that, we all know what's going to happen is that's going to drive the price up, right? So we have to understand all of these inputs into the budget process, and not a lot of them are pleasant to talk about, but that's the way it is. And I will tell you, with the OMPF, part of the problem is when you start pulling it apart, is they are looking at, the province looks at a whole bunch of things when they look at the OMPF, but one of the things that we didn't do is when you minimize your tax increases and you supplement that with pulling money out of your reserves to balance your operating budget, they think you're doing okay. So what do? Well, that's part of the puzzle,
cut back.
how they bring it back, right? And so we have to be cognizant of all those issues as we move along.
And obviously, with those comments, it probably will mean that as much as we don't want to be bad guys, bad people, is there will have to be some tax increases of some kind, even though I know for years now they've been trying to do a 0.00, which like Chris mentioned, you're basically just hiding the pain. And I mean, with the amount of inflation that's going on right now, you don't want to start beating people up any more than we have to. But obviously, there has to be a process where the taxes that we have presently cover our operational expenses at some point in time. And or we increase our tax base to a point which we've discussed, and we've authorized the CAO to go out and look at some options that possibly we will be able to increase our tax base to a point, whether it's commercial, residential, or otherwise, so that our tax base will be increased enough that some of our assessments, our tax assessments, will actually bring enough in to help out with the situation and get us back to a balanced budget. That's a hope. Yes, Councilor Neil.
Just to clerk, how many years has the township run in a deficit?
Since 2019.
2019? Thought that's been said.
Yeah, just to
Yes,
to
go ahead.
clarify that, you can't run a deficit. You cannot budget for a deficit. I'm sorry. The act doesn't allow that. So the way you balance that out, well, the way it was balanced out with these was a surplus,
Steal from Peter to pay Paul.
essentially.
And I know the previous term I was on council, which was 4+ years ago, there was always a consternation that there was some concern that our reserves were too high. And that was causing us problems because it made it look like as if we were doing too well, which isn't true. Even though it seemed like that sometimes, good solid reserves means that when the rainy days show up, you don't have to have the great big increases. You can actually manage things, but using your reserves just to hide the pain isn't, in my way of, or my observation, is not the way to function. But council as a group will have to make that decision when we get through this next few months.
Councillor DeMarco.
Yes, Councillor DeMarco?
Through your worship, probably to the clerk treasurer. I constantly get asked by residents how much of an impact all the Mennonite community impacts our budget. Like everybody figures that because the Mennonites are moving up and they're opening up these humongous big farms, that our taxes should be helped out a lot. And yeah, I just don't know how to reply to them, if that's making any sense to you.
Madam Clerk, can you respond to that in some fashion?
I'll do my best. So Mennonites pay taxes, Councillor DeMarco. It depends how their property is classified. So there could be potentially 3, maybe 2, 4 classifications of taxes on one specific property. There could be a classification for residential if they have a home. There could be a classification of industrial, depending on what they have on their property. And potentially they may have a classification for farm. So that entire assessment is based on 3 different tax classes, which are taxed all differently. For farmland taxes, you do have to apply through OMAFRA in order to be classified as a farmland tax. And as you know, Councillor DeMarco, you're only taxed at 0.25 when you are classified in the farmland. So they do help our tax assessment, absolutely, because not every single entire Mennonite property, unless it is vacant and is strictly all identified as farmland, they do have other tax classes on that specific property. I'm not sure if I directly answered your question, but hopefully gave you some information.
Yeah, yes, pretty much. Just to follow up on it, a lot of them have businesses opening up too, like, and how do we keep track of them? Like, I see new signs going up on a regular basis there for different businesses.
So
Can you respond, Sandra?
Are they getting like permits to operate these businesses? Are we getting finances from that?
So this should all be addressed, Councillor DeMarco, through a building permit, and then the building permit is then submitted to MPAC, and that's where MPAC will pick it up and assess it accordingly.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yep.
if you're talking about, so you're just talking about businesses we can see with our, like, on the property, right? You're not talking about home-based businesses, correct?
Right, I think so. I don't know what they're classified as. Some of them are for sandblasting and painting, and some are for leather work and this type of stuff. So
So
I
it'll
don't
be captured
know.
through the building permit.
Okay. Yeah, as if they already have their house built and their shop built, and then a year later they stick up a sign saying we're going to do sandblasting and painting and this kind of stuff. How is that picked up?
So, and the CAO can correct me if I'm wrong, but 2 ways that can be picked up. One is obviously by staff paying attention to what's going on in municipality. I know the CAO has picked up a few different properties and has submitted them to MPAC for them to review. At other times, if their neighbor potentially has built, MPAC may, while they're in the vicinity, also reassess that particular property, because again, they're in that vicinity. And I would want to say during a reassessment cycle, which hasn't happened since 2016. So during a
Right.
reassessment cycle, that's where MPAC could go along and reassess everything and update the market values of all the properties. And that would be another opportunity for them to catch it.
Just
Okay,
a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just saying thank you, and maybe one day I'll take the CAO for a ride.
Only when you're not sick.
Won't be
I
today.
had an additional question actually to either Chris or Madam Clerk, that regarding the fact that we don't have a bylaw officer or our own building official, we're probably missing out on a lot of opportunities there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Maybe.
we do have a CBO services, right?
Yeah, I
Outside
know.
of Timmins, but
Not our own.
it's not our own, and there is a difference between having your own versus having a contracted service. And it's not that the CBO is not good. He's very technically very good at his job. He has picked up a few things, but he's not watching for them. If you had a bylaw enforcement officer, then that person is watching for those things, right? Sometimes it's not necessarily that people are knowingly breaking the law. They just do things. And then when you tell them, they go, oh, okay. And then they get a correction, right? But the treasurer is correct. MPAC does a pretty good job of picking things up when we talk to them about it. And they know that we have our eye on properties to make sure that they're appropriately taxed. This is not about making sure somebody pays more. It's about fairness to everybody in the community, that they pay their fair share. So, and you know, the Mennonites themselves, I mean, Northern Pipe is a huge industrial piece of assessment that they run. And there are other ones too in the community that they do that as well. The home-based businesses like baking goods and stuff, I really think that you're not going to get anywhere with an assessment increase there. What you might get is a little bit of money to ensure business licensing is done in those places. And a business license is another way that you can catch additional assessment that should be caught by impact. That's the purpose of it. So, and including zoning issues too. So all these are all wrapped up together. And at the end of the day, we just want to be fair to everybody. We want to make sure that we're catching everything we should.
Without causing a whole pile of extra work, which it usually does when I ask questions. But is there a simple way that we can actually identify the increase in farm taxes that we've received in the municipality in the last few years, whether we just identify, I don't want to just single out one particular group, but I'm just saying, like, even if we take a look over the last, I don't know, pick a number, 5 years and say, what has our farm tax assessment gone up? Or, you know, which kind of gives us an idea of covering off the area that Councilor DeMarco was asking about, even if that becomes part of the report at some point in time. Yes.
So actually in the clerk treasurer's monthly report that council is going to receive at the next council meeting, I do touch on how every tax class has increased or decreased throughout the year. So you'll see that. If council wants a report just to identify over the past 5 years, how each tax class has changed, that can be provided as well.
And it's not something that's going to be so onerous again. Okay. I think that would be very, very good. I think for an educational basis and give everybody some talking points when those questions arise. That's my own opinion. Yes.
One last thing too is that we did have a growth assessment increase this year. Cassandra, remind me, 2.65 or 2.95? 2.85%. So that growth, that's real growth. That's new assessment. It's been added to the roll through building permits. It's not terribly high, but it's better than zero.
It was the net was 88,000.
There you go, $88,000. So, you know, that helps an awful lot. Last year, I think it was in the range of 2 as well. I can't quite remember.
I can't remember.
It was low. But we're seeing an uptick in building permits too. Like there's lots of building permits, and that's a good thing. The thing we want to catch, I think, is people who are building without a permit, because that's a liability issue for them and for us. And it's a loss of assessment value. So it's interesting because some people will come into the office and they'll talk about stuff and say, well, I got this thing out in this piece of land, 150 acres. And oh, we don't show any assessment on that land. And then you never see them again, right? But we already know who they are. So
anyway, thank you very much for that, Chris. And because I guess Cassandra, you have another.
Yes, so because council's directing the clerk treasurer for a report, I've drafted a motion, so I would need a mover and a seconder.
Did we clear up the last one? Did we revisit it?
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. You do have a motion on the table and then we'll have to pass another motion.
Yeah, if we can, we better clean things up before I get into trouble. Could you read that motion, either reread it or whatever, please, Madam Clerk?
Yes, so the motion that's presently on the table reads as moved by Councillor Gattery and seconded by Councillor Drewer that council receive report CTT 2023-02 as information.
All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Possibly. So, Cassandra's gonna just drop up another, quick resolution here for us. Need a mover and a seconder on this resolution. Moved by Councillor Diamond, seconded by Councillor Gatter.
Okay, I'll read the motion that I've done on the fly. If council wants me to change wording, I can. Moved by Councillor Diamond, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council direct the clerk treasurer to bring back a report to identify assessment growth per tax class since 2018.
Is that wording suitable to council? Satisfactory? Thank you. I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Okay.
Yes.
I guess we're gonna go into 8C. Is there a report on insurance?
Yes,
We have a motion or no?
yes.
Motion to accept, moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor DeMarchi. Please read the motion, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor DeMarchi, that council receive report CTT 2023-01 as information.
Has everybody read the report? Is there questions or concerns regarding the report? I see none, so I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And my understanding has been a lot of work going into trying to keep our insurance bills to as close to as reasonable as we can, but I don't think it's very easy anymore. Anyway. Item 8D. It's a Matheson Drinking Water Inspection Report. We got a motion here, moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Neal. Please read the motion.
Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Neal, that council received the Matheson drinking water inspection report for 2022. That council received Matheson's drinking water inspection rating report for 2022 as information.
Any questions or concerns regarding the report? Since we're all liable for any problems that Aqua leaves behind. Anyway, unless you're that technical, I would have to trust somebody sooner or later. And no questions, or I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, there's a question over here. Yes, Chris.
Not a question. I just wanted to give council some information. You shouldn't be concerned about the result here. It's a pretty good score if you can look at 95%, which is pretty good. I prefer it to be 100%. As soon as I got this, I did talk about they're addressing the situation, so there should be no concern here for council.
We don't have a sprinkler system anywhere like in some cities.
No, of course.
All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And we'll move into item 9A. It's regarding a bylaw to authorize the mayor and treasurer of the corporation to borrow certain sums of money to meet current year expenditures. And we need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Rondo. Please read the motion.
Was moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that bylaw number 2023-001, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and treasurer of the corporation of the township of Black River, Matheson to borrow certain sums to meet current expenditures of the corporation in the year 2023. Be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 10th day of January 2023.
Questions or concerns regarding the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Nine B. Another bylaw. To enter an agreement with Larry Gorge. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Dattery. Seconded by Councillor DeMarkey. Somebody's paying attention, at least Councillor DeMarkey. This wasn't me. Could you please read the motion,
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Moved by Councillor Dattery, seconded by Councillor DeMarkey, that bylaw number 2023-002, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Larry Gorringe, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 10th day of January 2023.
Any questions or concern regarding this? I think it's pretty straightforward. Get rid of our nuisance beavers and critters. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Nine C. We're gonna speak about another bylaw regarding a bylaw to appoint authorized signing officers for the township of Black River and Alderson. Mover and a seconder again, moved by Councillor DeMarkey, seconded by Councillor Drury. Please read the motion.
Moved by Councillor DeMarkey, seconded by Councillor Jewett, that bylaw number 2023-03, being a bylaw to appoint authorized signing officers, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 10th day of January 2023.
Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And we'll be in 9E. Regarding emergency management program bylaw. 9D. 9D? Did I miss 9D?
No, that is 90.
I thought it said 9D was our signing officer. We're under 9E, correct?
No.
No, 9D, emergency response.
Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, we're in 9D, it's regarding to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan. And I need a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Drury, seconded by Councillor DeMarkey. Please read the motion.
Moved by Councillor Jewett, seconded by Councillor DeMarkey, that bylaw number 2023-05, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan, and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 10th day of January 2023.
Questions or concerns regarding the bylaw? Yes, Councillor DeMarkey?
Through your worship, just wondering if there's any feedback yet on the generators for emergency centers.
Yes, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor DeMarkey, that will actually be on the next council agenda, Councillor DeMarkey. We got some information back.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns regarding this? If not, if I see none, so I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? No objection, see no objections, carried. Now we're in the 9E. So the emergency management program bylaw. Whoops.
9E is a bylaw
Oh, I
for the Martin Drain. So
sorry, read the wrong one, sorry.
it's okay.
Yes. So I need a mover and a seconder on that item, moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Drury. Please read the motion.
It was moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Drewer that bylaw number 2023-06 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2017-25 being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of Black River Matheson to provide for drainage works in the Township of Black River Matheson, known as Martin Drain, be read a third and final time this 10th day of January 2023.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Just so council is aware, this bylaw is a housekeeping bylaw. So back in 2017, we did have residents apply for a municipal drain. It was called the Martin Drain. Part of the process is you need to have certain documentation in place in order to receive all the funds from the parties and including the province. I was new to the position and I was also new to drains. I missed the third and final reading. So we still have a receivable on our balance sheet with regards to this drain. In order to receive it from the province, we need to have the third and final reading. So it's housekeeping to get some money with regards to the Martin Drain.
Getting money is always good, I believe. Any other questions or concerns regarding that? Thank you, Madam Clerk. And all those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Thanks for catching it. And we'll move into unfinished business, item 10. 10A, pay equity and compensation review report. Need a mover and a seconder again, moved by Councillor Gattery, seconded by Councillor Diamond. Sorry, Dan. I'm not paying attention to the screen again. Could you please read the motion?
Moved by Councillor Gattery and seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council accept report CAO 2023-01 compensation grid as information. And that council approve the proposed 2022 management non-union salary grid with job rates reflecting the 50th percentile pay target adjusted to 2023 to be brought forward in the 2023 budget cycle, notwithstanding any 2023 economic adjustments. And that the amended pay equity plans that have been prepared for the management non-union employee group and the QP bargaining unit reflect the results of the 2022 pay equity analysis and are hereby approved. And that a banding framework be prepared for QP positions to inform the collective bargaining process in 2023, reflecting internal equity, pay equity compliance, and a competitive pay market. And that all staff, union and non-union, be informed of the updated and compliant communications pay equity plans. And finally, that CP-1816-02 staff pay management policy be adopted by bylaw.
Questions or concerns from council? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in, sorry,
Quick recap.
sorry, Chris, yeah, please go ahead.
Just so council knows, because most of you weren't here. This item, actually appears in our strategic plan. And so in March last year, we put in an RFP to, retain, a compensation expert to, number one, bring our pay equity plans into compliance because we were out of compliance. And number two, to develop, a report based on the current rates for non-union employees, actually for all employees, to see where we were in the market and whether that was the appropriate place to be. So we engaged with Marianne Love, and Marianne has been around for a long time. She's a lawyer who specifies only in the compensation market. She actually sits on the owners board, and she's probably one of the top one or two experts in the province on this issue. She put together a survey that she sent out to 13, actually more than 13 municipalities. 13 municipalities responded, some larger than us, some smaller than us. And from that, she built a wage grid. And the wage grid was based on the 50th percentile, which means that half of the positions in our comparative group were above us, half below us, so we're right in the middle. And then once she had done all that, she made a presentation to council. And council, rather than passing this resolution in its former form, because it's changed a little bit, decided that They wanted to defer the matter because they weren't sure what the effect on the budget is. Well, with respect to the budget, and the pay equity, it really doesn't matter. You have to put the plans in place and, therefore, you're compliant once you do this. The second part is the pay grid that includes also the non-union staff, and there's really nothing there. It's pretty neutral. What it does do is put a 5-step process in for each of our staff. So if I can work it backwards, step 5 is 100%. So that's the job rate. That's what that job pays for the person that is well qualified and has the experience and everything to be here. And as you move back, it's less. So the next step, I think, is 94%, goes down by 6% each step. And so what we found through that is really that we don't have anybody that's that we could not fit in a step. Now, the policy says you cannot squeeze somebody in between steps. That's pretty common sense, because if you do that, then why do you have a step program? The CAO and the clerk treasurer, and I think there was one other position at the landfill as well, are not in steps. So we'll have to make an adjustment for that in 2023. But other than that, this grid, there's no budgetary effect right now. As we move into 2023 and we talk about budgets, there will be some proposed, because people will be moving steps. And you don't get to move a step just because you exist. You have to have a good performance appraisal to do that. And we hope that we're going to be able to put some objectives in place that people are going to be able to execute, that relate back to our strategic plan and that type of. So there's a process to it. And so once we have it in place, the only thing we need to worry about in the future is economic adjustments. So in other words, COLA or CPI. And so everything gets adjusted accordingly. So the steps get adjusted as well. So we don't have to worry about these one-off things with different positions. So this is a very progressive thing to do. And what it does do is it really allows us to manage our salary grid very appropriately, as opposed to guessing on different things. So if you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer them.
Any questions to the CEO? Yes,
I'm
Councilor.
just gonna, because I'm familiar, we've done that within the group that I'm with, overall province payroll amount. And again, sometimes those considered the location that you are as well.
Yep.
For the size of the community you're in, has to be, and again, I know this is, you were saying the 50% mark. And so it'll be definitely interesting to see what 2023 will bring.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And the geographic area, Councillor, was also considered. But the other thing is that really that this doesn't really consider is the fact that we've got a problem with employment in the province, whether it's trying to get people to apply for jobs, which we have difficulty with, or people who are asking for crazy salaries just because they can. And then there's people that are retiring. There's people who are, moving into the gig economy where they have 3-4 jobs. They're not appropriate for our workplace. So there's a number of combination things that are working against us with respect to that. At some point, I hope that this levels out and that we come back to things that we knew as normal. But we'll have to wait and see.
Time will tell, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that update, Chris. Any other questions or concerns? We have the motion on the floor. If there's no other questions or concerns, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And 9B. It's a bylaw to adopt a staff pay management policy. I'm assuming it's linked.
That's right. That's the policy that the
Okay.
CAO referred to in his report.
I need a mover to seconder once again, moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Gadry. Sorry. Could you please read the motion?
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gadry. That bylaw number 2023-07 being a bylaw to adopt a staff pay management policy be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 10th day of January 2023.
which is what we've been discussing. So I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Nine C is Emergency Management Program Committee memo. And we need a mover and a seconder again, moved by Councillor DeMarchi, seconded by Councillor Gattari. Please read the motion.
Moved by Councillor DeMarchi, seconded by Councillor Gattari, that council receive report CTM 2023 02 as information. And that council consider the matter addressed in the interim until updates are made to the emergency management plan.
Questions or concerns regarding the motion?
Just one comment for.
Yes,
Just
yes, Councilor Neal.
just the spelling for Evangel, LE instead of IL,
Oh,
just a correction. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the housekeeping. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And I guess we're into 11. Other business. 11A is AMO land use planning training. Mover and a seconder again, moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Diamond. Please read the motion.
moved by Councillor Drewer, seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council approve of the following individuals to attend the virtual AMO land use planning training to the amount of $250 per person.
What's the date of that?
The date for this is so the dates are March 2nd, April 18th, May 1st, October 24th.
And these are all virtual.
Yes,
Anybody want to put their name forward for this? Councillor Diamond,
There wasn't a person being a different role.
and obviously you can meet or discuss this with the clerk as far as a date when the time comes. Anybody else interested in attending? I see no other account.
We're both will.
It's all virtual.
Yeah, but we'll all do it on our own computers?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
Councillor Neal.
Okay, I'm out for that.
Okay.
Can't do it.
Anybody else? Yes, Madam Clerk.
if I can address Mr. Mayor, Councillor Drewer. So we can put your name down, Councillor Drewer, and then we can look at the dates. If it works out, we can register you.
Okay,
Because what council's doing is authorizing these funds to be spent and it'll be reflected in the.
okay, that's fine.
So do I add your name?
Yes,
Councillor?
please.
I would, but it's gonna be
How many
impossible.
people are we?
Allowed to have?
Mhm.
If you're interested in attending it, it's worthwhile attending for you, then you're good to have your name added. It's not a major, this is actually one of those actual cheap events, if you don't mind me saying that. That the only cost municipalities a $250 registration fee, correct?
Yes.
Councillor Gatter, you interested or? You like Madam Clerk had specified, if it doesn't work out on those dates. It just means you don't have to attend, but this will allow the money to be allocated.
Okay.
Councillor Gathering. Nobody else? Well, then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And now I believe we're ready to go into our closed session.
So we'll need a mover and a seconder to go into close.
Mover and a seconder to go into close. We got Councillor Gathering and Councillor Drewer.
Can I read the motion?
Yes, you may.
Moved by Councillor Gattari, seconded by Councillor Drewer, that council now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 7:54 PM. In accordance with section 239 subsection 2 clause E of the municipal act, in order to discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards regarding a statement of claim update from a former employee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All those in favor of moving into closed? I see no objections. Carry.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I address Councillor?
Yes, you may.
Councillor DeMarkey,
Yes, yes.
Hanji's gonna send you the closed meeting link because it's separate from the open meeting link. So we're gonna disconnect you and you'll see an email come through from Hanji with the closed meeting link.
Thank